Welcome to Launch One Podcast with Mason Springer. I'm Mason Springer. Today we're joined by Casey VanDerGraaf. Casey is from Michigan. You are from Michigan, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yes. And he's with Prime. If you haven't already heard, we just released a bow breakdown of the new Prime Divide. Go check that out. But Casey, right now we're doing a buck breakdown on the buck you shot here earlier this year.
Yeah.
Um, what's a quick rundown?
Yeah. No. So I grew up in Michigan, so I've lived in Iowa now for 3 years. And kind of just have been looking around public and trying to find deer and do it that way. I had leases when I first moved here, and honestly found just as big deer on the public stuff around. Started out there and have slowly met some people, and me and my really good buddy have started to tear apart some public pieces that we've started to find really good deer at. Um, that's kind of where it all started. Is yeah, just putting out a bunch of cameras. We knew that there was deer in certain areas. This piece that I ended up shooting my deer at was a super overlooked piece. There's a lot of really big chunks of public around it. And it's just this little corner that backs up to some really good ag. Um, and it kind of backs up to a lake. So yeah, right there is where we found a lot of deer sign, and we've had deer in the past couple of years kind of come through there, and we knew that there were a couple of really good deer in there that we wanted to shoot. Um, so I hunted there for I think 3 days prior to shooting this deer, and made a couple mistakes. Tried to hunt a pretty tough to hunt scrape, kind of like in the bottom of a little thermal hub, and honestly got blown out the first day I was in there, and I could tell it was a mature deer that blew at me. Um, and no matter what the wind was doing, the thermals would still take over and kind of pull it up the drainage, and that's where he was coming from. So he busted me the first day, and I was just kind of a little bit frustrated on like, what do I do? How do I get on this deer? I think at that time we had 4 or 5 deer in there that I would shoot. And I was just like, I don't know how to hunt this spot. I don't know how to like I tried to access it a good way, like sneak in there pretty what I thought was pretty undercover. But yeah. So I didn't quite know how to hunt this spot, and got
Mm-hmm.
blown out that first day. And my buddy ended up coming down, and we were both gonna hunt this piece, and I had 2 deer that I was after. He really had one that he was in there after. So we decided to kind of hop in a tree together. If the one deer came by, he would shoot it. I would grab the camera, film him, and then if my deer came by, he would grab the camera and I would shoot. So his name's Connor Wakefield. He's one of the best hunters that I've ever met. So whenever I get the chance to hop up in a tree and learn from him, I try to do so. So we went in there, and I kind of just let him take reins, and I told him my experience. I was like, saw a couple deer, but I wasn't seeing the mature bucks that I wanted to. And we accessed it a way that I never would have thought of. So it was really nice having his eyes on it, and kind of just like, let's go total 180 degrees, slip in from this way, and let's hunt this. Instead of hunting that scrape at the bottom, let's hunt the point, and kind of just after they hit that scrape, they wrap around it and head to scent check the ag field that's up top.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, our first day hunting that way and accessing it that way and hunting them, um, yeah, they hit that scrape and wrapped around the point. And first thing we saw, probably like 110 inch deer come by, and kind of came in a way we didn't expect as much. He came a little bit downwind, um, but didn't end up getting our wind. We kind of figured out really quick that the spot that we were in, with the thermals pulling up and the wind, that we were kind of like bulletproof where we were.
Yeah.
That there was nothing, even no matter where they came from, we weren't gonna get blown out. Whether we get a shot, that's tough when it's public, and there are branches in the way and all that kind of stuff. But we knew that we weren't going to get wind bumped or caught in thermals or anything like that. So had that first deer come by, just cruised right by, and then about, I would say, 9:30 ish. So we're kind of like thinking about getting down and what we're going to do, if we need to make any adjustments.
And
And yeah,
what time of year is this?
this was no or October 26th, I believe. So kind of
Okay.
like that scrape week. So they're not
Yeah.
quite chasing yet. They're just laying down, and especially with us having 4 or 5 deer in there, mature deer, there were a lot of scrape activity back there. So we knew that that's kind of what they were trying to do, is just lay down as much scent hit these scrapes, and then just keep moving. So yeah, as soon as that deer moved through about 9:30 that day, yeah, my deer came in hitting a scrape, um, and then yeah, put a really good shot on him and didn't go too far, and actually kind of ran closer to the truck, which is always good. It wasn't as bad of a
Yeah.
drag. Um, but yeah, it ended up being my number one target deer, which that was like a
Wow.
main bucket list thing, or a yearly goal for me.
Yeah.
I feel like I do a good job of getting into where I'm supposed to, and killing good deer, but I've never really killed a deer that I was like specifically after. Like, this is my number one target deer. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, when he came through and put a good shot on him, watched him fall, and yeah, it was the celebration in that tree stand with like someone else in there with me
Oh
was,
wow.
it was unreal. Like, it was the highlight of my hunting in Iowa so far,
That's
is being
that's
in a
great.
tree stand with someone when that deer dropped.
So, sounds like you had some history with this deer. How long did you know of him?
Um, I think I think we had 4 years with him. We definitely had three. We have a shed off of him from 2 years ago. So so yeah, we know if he's been around in the area, and he was pretty unique. He wrapped all the way around and almost touched, so you can tell from our shed that it was definitely him. And have some trail camera videos. And then last year he actually disappeared. We never got him on camera last year.
Really?
Yeah, and then was a consistent buck this year. We had him quite a few times coming in, and yeah, hitting a couple scrapes pretty frequently. So
So what did you age this deer at?
I think he was probably 5.5 would be my guess. He was one of the bigger bodied deer that I've ever shot.
Yeah.
And we dragged out one of my buddy's deer about a week after, and it was a 4.5 year old, and so we kind of had like something to compare it to side by side, and the body was just huge on my deer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pre-rut, so he was obviously full. His
Yes.
neck was huge. He smelt real bad, so he was definitely getting ready for for the full for stuff to start going down. But
Yeah.
yeah, he was.
So you had him for several years before this. What was your plan to target this buck? Were you hunting for him on the opener? Were you just going to target him during the rut? What was your plan there?
Yeah, so my plan was a little bit different this year. So I work for Prime Archery, so we have a bow launch that is like mid-November. So that time frame is really tough for me to hunt. And then my wife actually had a work conference. I think it was November 5th or 3rd through like the 12th, like all the good days. And like
Yes.
what I've killed my like the last 4 years, what I've killed those deer and is in that time frame. So I was really going into the season. I was like, I got end of November and then like the first 1 or 2 days, and then I'm gonna have quite a while before I can get out there and hunt again. So um, I'm used to hunting like kind of like the rut funnel stuff in like bedding areas, like trying to catch bucks coming in and scent checking bedding areas, and that's what I feel like I'm pretty good at. So this whole hunting scrapes and trying to figure that stuff out was very new to me, which is why it was really good that my buddy Connor is kind of he kills all of his deer in October. Like, that's where his strength is.
Really?
Um, so yeah, kind of having him alongside me and us brainstorming together and trying to dissect this piece. Um, yeah, there was a lot of stress at the beginning of the year trying to do something that I've never done before, which is yeah, kill one this time of year. But
So, when was your first hunt on this property?
like of the year,
Yeah.
um, so I killed him on my fourth day of hunting. So whatever 4 days prior to the 26th is, yeah, the
Okay. Yeah.
22nd.
So just hit again. This is a Iowa deer, and then you're
Mhm.
living in Iowa now.
Yep.
Okay.
So no, yeah, I live in Iowa now. Moved there like 3 or 4 years ago. It actually might even be 5 now, but yeah, so a Michigan boy moving to Iowa, and the difference between in Michigan, you're seeing 100-inch deer on a good day to just about every sit you're seeing 100-inch deer here in Iowa, um, has been quite the transition.
Absolutely. And what's the terrain difference between Michigan and Iowa?
So in Michigan, I hunted a lot of swamp stuff. So since I moved to Iowa, I had the dream of kind of hunting like ag field style stuff in like wide open country. Um, but what I've found most of my success in is more the hill country stuff. So like the big woods, I've found that that stuff holds a lot bigger deer. People don't know how to hunt it right. Just with thermals and wind, it's pretty tough.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, a lot of people are lazy where they don't want to go a couple miles back and try to do it themselves. So I found that yeah, the big woods here in Iowa hold a lot of really big deer, and it's not what I expected to hunt when I got here, but um, yeah,
Yes.
I try to hunt where the big deer are at, and
Well, yeah,
it
that's
seems like that's where they're at.
so. I noticed in your photo with this buck, and I'm not sure if this is where you killed it or not, but looks like you've got a water source in the background of some type.
Hmm.
Um, as far as terrain, water sources, drainages, does water play a big part in where you choose a location in Iowa?
Um, Not really. It seems like there's a lot of streams and rivers. I know deer like to gravitate towards like still water. They don't like to drink out of flowing water as much, but um, no, I don't think so. We've found deer all over public land that there's water not even really that close to it. Um, but yeah, no, I wouldn't say water. If anything, it's a little more tricky. Like they're there for a reason. There's ag water in safe bedding areas, some thick stuff for them to stay in. But it made it. I think that's kind of the first couple of days when I was trying to hunt that bottom. It was right off the water too. So I'm fighting thermals, wind, and like water pull,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to like kind of get lucky and just beat their noses. And it was really hard
Yeah.
to do. And I think that's why it didn't work out those first couple days.
So, are you doing like e-scouting throughout the summer, trail cameras? What's your method there when you're just picking an area?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. It starts out with e-scouting, but really it's boots on the ground. Try to do a bunch of shed hunting. I know this year more than ever we've decided, me and my buddy that hunt together, that we need to widen our range a little bit more. So we're gonna be doing a lot more shed hunting, and like in the springtime when there's still a little bit of snow on the ground, you can see those deer trails really well. So just following those deer trails and marking them on Onyx, like using your tracker and just
Mm-hmm.
tracking those trails, because you can't see them in October. There's too much foliage on the trees, and those trails aren't as easy to identify. But in the spring, you can really see them well. You can find a lot more scrapes and stuff like that and mark them. And I would say most of our scouting is done in the spring, and then
Okay.
we know kind of our big thermal, our big community scrapes, and we know what we're going to put our cameras on. Um, and very rarely do we kind of just like wander around before season and try to find stuff. We're trying to do that spring/summer, and mostly when we're shed hunting. We're really
Okay.
out there scouting with the bonus of a shed happening here and there.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I do the same thing. When does season open in Iowa? Like, what's the opener date?
October 1st.
October 1st. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so I think we're about the same here in Ohio. We're maybe the 28th of September. So
Hmm.
about the same time frame. Uh, that's that's probably plays into a big part of the bedding feeding pattern.
Hmm.
Here in Ohio, at least, we're still able to hunt that the first couple weeks of October. Um, were you patterning this buck on a bedding feeding motion, or were you kind of relying on those pinch points and stuff for more rut like activity?
Yeah, it was more rut like activity. I think all the deer that we were after, they spend almost all of their time on the private, and they just kind of come over to these fingers. And I don't know if they're going down there to get water or what, but they're just freshening up scrapes, making a quick loop around the point, and then heading back to. So it's just kind of this, like I said, it was a pretty overlooked piece. It's not very big,
Yeah.
but it's just enough where they can come over and lay some scent down and then get back over to their private. Um, and
Yeah.
I've met the private landowners, and they're a couple kids who really only go out during muzzleloader season, and don't do a ton of bow hunting. So there's not a huge threat over there. So we kind of get the opportunity to know what deer are over there. If we pass one, we know it stands a pretty good chance of making it in another year. And
Yeah. That's
yeah.
great. Yeah. It's it can be hard to do, herd management like that on public especially, but when you've got private next door, that's really nice.
hmm
Um yeah, so when you're hunting out of a saddle, I assume.
Yeah, kind of like a hybrid. So I hunt out of a Lone Wolf Custom Gear .5, their smallest stand, and then I wear a saddle in, and most of the time, I'd say 60% of the time, I hunt it like a saddle. But if I need to, I can flip around it. A lot of it just determines, like on public lands, you just never know what tree you're going to need to get up into.
Yes.
So I'll set up in the tree the way that I can, and then either sit or sit saddle style in that stand, whatever needs to be there.
Okay, and how far are you walking in? How far do you have to carry this gear?
Um, it depends. This spot it wasn't crazy far, but there's certain spots that I've hunted in. Like my deer last year was quite a bit further than this year, and yeah. So you're carrying it in quite a ways, and there's certain days when you don't even necessarily end up in a tree when you're kind of hunting a new piece and scouting your way back and trying to find a spot. Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
like to have pretty light mobile gear. I definitely am 100% mobile. I like to put the stand up and then take it down that same sit usually. Um, so having a light system like that makes that really easy. It's not necessarily for the long hike. It's more for just the ease of getting it down and up.
So when you're not with a another hunter, in my mind, it would be hard to kind of conceal two guys standing up there in one tree, at least in the terrain that I'm at. How's that work with you guys there in Iowa?
Yeah, no, we so if I'm hunting with someone, I always sit saddle style just so he's on the opposite side of the tree. We're both kind of facing the same way because we know the direction that the deer are going to come from for the most part. Um, so I'm usually hidden behind the tree and then kind of just have him to worry about. But we've so I've listened to like the Cody DeQuisto. He's become a pretty good friend of mine, and he swears by hunting pretty low. So we generally hunt about 10 feet in the air, if that. Sometimes.
Really?
Um, so yeah, we're generally really low. Um,
What's the advantage of that?
so it's kind of that like it's kind of the horizon line that we play. So you don't necessarily want to be above the horizon line. Because then you're sticking out quite a bit more. So if you can
Yeah.
stay below it, um, yeah, they're not necessarily picking you off too easy as long as you're staying still. But yeah, that's kind of the main reason is just staying below that horizon line.
Yeah, I've never thought of it that way, but that's a great way to do it. And um how did that work? How's that worked on other hunts or like before you shot this buck as far as like the interactions with deer? How did that
hmm
affect them?
Um, I don't know if it's Iowa or if it's um, because I feel like I couldn't have got away with a lot of the stuff that I do in Michigan. Um, but yeah, in Iowa, I don't get picked off very often at all. Hunting this way, and I've killed every deer that I've killed in Iowa. Hunting 10 feet or lower. I've yet to go higher than that. So, um,
Yeah.
I'm kind of sold on it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've never thought about that. Um so for me, I shot a buck here, and anytime something like that happens, I always learn a lesson, whatever it might be. Challenge I overcame, whatever it was. Was there anything like that for you on this deer?
Um, I mean, not necessarily like a challenge I overcame, but it was more of just like having my buddy there and learning the importance of access. Um,
Really?
and yeah, the importance of access and to not rely on your cameras. Like I was kind of trying to hunt the scrape that had the camera on it because there was a bunch of daylight activity. When they're even though we're getting them on camera in daylight, there's different ways and different places to hunt them, other than sitting over that one scrape because you're only getting a tiny little frame of what they're doing that day. They're moving all around there.
Yeah.
So to not rely on the camera as much and access it a little bit different, and when the wind and thermals and everything are a little bit sketchy, just to kind of get down and back out instead of screwing stuff up. Um, but yeah, that's the one thing I definitely learned is don't rely on the cameras and really focus on access. If things aren't working out, change it up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely agree with that. You just gotta put the time in, make sure you got a good game plan, and you'll end up shooting some nice mature deer like you have. Perfect
Thank you.
demonstration. Well,
Yeah.
how can people reach out to you, Casey, and where can they find you out there?
Yeah, pretty much Instagram. That's really the only piece that I use pretty consistently. So Casey.VanDerGraaf is my Instagram handle, and yeah, if you reach out there, I'll be sure to we can talk some deer. I love talking deer. So
Yeah, and we've run into each other several times at different tack shoots and events throughout the summer, and then the ATA show. So if you're ever at an event at the Prime booth, you probably got a good chance of seeing Casey.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on today, Casey. I think we had a great talk, and hopefully everybody watching can learn something. And I definitely did, especially about hanging the stands low. That's a great
Yeah.
concept.
Yep. No, thank you for having me on. I love talking deer, so appreciate you letting me tell my story.
Perfect. Well, we'll see you on the next one, Casey. You have a good one.